Hi, I'm Sam Hager from Makeshift. We focus on reporting for Amazon agencies, brands, and aggregators. And as somebody who has worked in a couple different Amazon agencies and built them to, some pretty sizable number of employees as well as client rosters, one of the things we always were challenged with was finding really good talent for our Amazon agencies. And what we realized in time was that analytical skills were really critical to being able to do good work for our clients. And obviously, the world has changed a lot in the last few years, but something that still continues to be an important tool for us is Excel or Google Sheets to be able to do off the cuff or on the fly analysis for a given account. So one thing we were tasked with in those agencies as we were vetting candidates to hire into the team was judging their analytical skills. Often we found that our rock stars on the team were those that could manipulate data, that could dump and export and actually glean some insights and figure out what was going on in an account through that raw data. And that's a really critical element of the assessment that we were doing for candidates. So what we wanted to do is pull together what we're calling our Excel test for hiring. And it's a basic Excel test that you can run in Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel that you give to your candidate and give them a due date to complete it. You'll find that within this test, they can kind of make their own way. They don't have to follow a given way of doing something, but we're going to reward them for attention to detail, the ability to figure stuff out, even if it's kind of ambiguous and they don't know exactly the data that they're looking for. They don't have to know Amazon data in order to do this. The instructions and the data are designed for them to rather be able to work with the data as opposed to understanding exactly what that data is communicating, though we do have an element of that in this test as well. So they don't need any prior knowledge of Amazon. It would probably help them, but when I first took this test, because my co-founder Todd Vanderstelt gave it to me as he was hiring me into the first agency, I had zero Amazon knowledge. So it is possible, it is doable. And what we're really trying to establish here is just a baseline for you with these candidates to know whether or not they're going to be able to work through problems in accounts and identify ways to fix those things. So really they just need some basic or intermediate formula and function usage in Excel or Google Sheets. We're not talking macros, we're not talking anything too complex, but there are some lookups and some different things in here that they're going to get rewarded for being able to do. So the administration steps are described here. If you have questions, please reach out to us. You can just hit us at hello@makeshift.io. But we really think about this as like, look, they could cheat on this test. So they could use ChatGPT. They could, figure out how to expose the answers and unhide the scoring tab. It would be hard. But the reality is, if they're able to do that and they're able to figure it out, we aren't so bent out of shape about that. We're not so worried about the actual answer. We're worried about how they got there. And curiosity, self-reliance, the ability to dive deep and figure it out are actually really, really desirable traits for Amazon agency employees. So we tend to encourage that. We're not going to try to discourage it because we really want to test their ability to go figure stuff out, especially when they don't already know how to do it. That's how they're going to provide a ton of value to your agency right away. This is a great litmus test for that. So to share this, I'll show you a couple different ways to do this depending on whether or not you're using Google Sheets or Excel. This one's the Google Sheet example. There's a little bit different way of hiding the sheet, the scoring and assessment sheet in Excel. We describe that in that individual file. So if you're using that one, it'll look just a little bit different, but same basic process. So what you're going to first do is create a copy of this template. So you make the copy, and then what we would do is actually name this as like with the candidate's name in it. The reason to do this is just to be able to keep track and then always push it, house it in the same folder every time you make a copy of it. So you make the copy and then share it out. You can share it via link. I won't belabor that because you should be able to just click share and share it directly with that person. Um, And so once you've done that, you're going to make a copy and it'll look something like this with their name in the file. So looking at the test itself, looking across these tabs, the test is here in the assessment for candidate. The data is here in the May, June, and July tabs. You're actually only using the June and July. May is kind of just a red herring. It's not there for anything in particular. It's just so that they are actually paying attention and using the proper data. So the assessment itself has 7 basic tasks, or 7 basic tasks. The 7th one is down here below the questions, and 5 basic questions. The tasks really outline exactly what they're supposed to do. And the basic process is, hey, you first need to populate data. We do that using a lookup for both June and July in each of these columns. So what they're supposed to do is look at these tabs. They can copy and paste it to align it with the given columns, or they can use lookups, which obviously will reduce the time that they need to take to do this quite a bit. And then the one thing to watch out for if they are populating the data, these are in order of the child ASIN, but that doesn't mean that these are. So if they're not paying attention to the child ASIN, the record that they're populating for, obviously a lookup handles for this. If they're copy and pasting it, it's going to be wrong, right? So they'll have the wrong data mapped with the wrong ASIN. It doesn't screw up the rest of the assessment. It just will deduct them for if it doesn't match for that given ASIN, we test for that. So it's another important thing to note that they don't have to get all of these right. One thing wrong, in task 1 or 2 doesn't mean that everything else is also going to be wrong. We designed it in a way where we tried to insulate each task and each question in and of itself so that they're still getting points when they're getting the process right and the formula right, but maybe not the exact numbers. So you can read through these. There's a couple different things we're testing. We're primarily looking to see whether or not they know how to use basic lookup formulas, sums, subtractions, multiplications, things like that. A little bit of formatting, because sometimes you're getting raw data and you need to format it so it's readable, as well as some more advanced formulas like an if error to net out errors that are coming through in your lookup formula. You get bonus points for that one, as well as a few others. They can also use something like an XLOOKUP, VLOOKUP, or matcher index in a few of these different questions to get some bonus points too. So the main thing is they can get a perfect score, 100 out of 100. Perfect score is actually a 110, I think. We'll look at the scoring assessment. But they can get 100 out of 100 without actually using they have to use some formulas, but they don't have to do the bonus request. So you'll see how that works in just a second with the scoring assessment. Once they have this filled out through task 6, basically this table will be populated with data, and I'll show you what a completed assessment looks like in just a second. And then based on this data, they're going to be asked a couple different questions. We try to be as clear as we can with these. We're going to test these out and see if they make sense to everybody that's doing the test. But these questions then rely on them looking across this data and really kind of analyzing, like, what does that actually mean, regardless of what the metric itself might be. So they go through those questions, and then the last task, and actually something we consider to be really, really important, is the ability to synthesize the data and create a narrative. So what we ask them is write a brief email to the client, the fictional client, summarizing performance in 3 to 5 sentences. Use at least 3 different data points to support your narrative. This is, and then they get a bonus for making a recommendation. We just throw that in. If you can make a recommendation to improve performance, you really understand the data. This also gives you a little bit of insight into whether or not they know Amazon. They have Amazon knowledge coming in. But this is the only task here that you have to subjectively grade. Everything else is automatically graded. What we're looking for here is whether or not they can actually write intelligibly. Are they including data in a way that makes sense? Are they reading the data correctly? Is it something that you would put in front of a client and feel good about? That's really the litmus test there. So in the scoring and assessment tab here, this actually automatically scores everything except that task 7, which is the written narrative. That's one where you have to score it out of 15 points based on the quality and accuracy of the narrative itself, where, a 1 would be a really bad written narrative, and a 15 would be a perfect, and this is perfect. There are some bonus points built in. This is for some of the more complex formula usage. This just gives somebody you can see the total possible points are actually 110. And then we automatically score it based on what's input. So the only thing you actually have to type in is right here in task 7, column C. and that will get scored. So just put a score there from 1 to 15, 15 being the best, and then this score will be automatically graded. We've set some ranges here based on some rough estimates of what we would expect to come back. You see here, it starts here where we say, hey, if they get 100 above, probably a pretty good sign that they've got it locked down. Like they're going to provide value to your agency right away upon hiring, because they have the ability to go manipulate, analyze, and summarize data quite quickly and without a ton of context or hand holding from you. And then it kind of works its way progressively down, where if you're, in that less than 40 in the score, they're probably not real comfortable working with data, right? And maybe a different role is better for them, maybe a creative role, writing content, stuff like that. So, this is just really that assessment of whether or not you can trust them to read data in a Seller Central or Vendor Central account and analyze and understand what's going on, and whether or not they can actually then, figure out how to take action, figure out what's important in the account. If they can't do those basic things, manipulate data basically, is probably means they're not going to be great. And there's a pretty steep learning curve for them to be able to go work with data comfortably. So that's the scoring range that we put out there. So just to give you a sense for this, I'm going to unhide, let's see, I'm going to actually show you how to unhide the tab. So this is an example of a completed test. So you'll see in here, this is all filled out now with different formula usage. We have an if error, an X lookup, or a V lookup, some different sums, things like that. There's an index match here, right? So as these are filled out, and then I haven't written a narrative here for this, but if you want to then see the scoring assessment, which you'll hide before you share the assessment with your candidate, just go to View, go to Hidden Sheets, and show that scoring assessment. This is in Google Sheets. Like I said, it's a little bit different in Excel. I think you just right-click on the menu down here, and it'll show you the Hidden Sheets, and you can unhide it from there. So I gave myself a 12 on the narrative, so not perfect, but you can see these actually automatically assess, these actually automatically score for their inputs based on the criteria described here. There are actually answers. If you really want to see them, they're hidden in this column here, but they're in white. So even if they unhide it, they don't see it right away. So if you want to change it to a black text, you can actually see what we're driving off of. But this automatically scores it. All you have to do is input here. So if I wanted to change this, you'll see the score change to a 98, and we get a 108 out of 110, 108%. And all of these are automatically calculating it. So this gives you a pretty good objective means of analyzing a candidate's ability to work with data. Pretty common to do this in Excel and Google. This is something Todd, my co-founder, used with us at those early agencies as I managed. Todd was actually a bar raiser at Amazon, which is a real role in their hiring process, as they bring in somebody from the outside of the team that's doing the hiring as a kind of an objective third party. So this is something he really instilled with us early in our agency days, and it proved to be pretty true. The people that continued on and were really good working with clients and could handle, multiple accounts were the ones that could work with data kind of right out of the gate without, having a ton of Amazon knowledge. So we hope this helps. We hope this is really useful in vetting those initial candidates. This is something we'd probably send, before you're deep into your rounds of interviews, because this is kind of a showstopper. If they can't do this basic stuff, like after that first round of interviews or that first contact point, we're probably thinking about them differently for a different role. So this is something we would do really early in the process as well. Looking forward to everybody's feedback. We hope this helps and hope it helps you find really great folks for your Amazon teams. Thank you.